premiere of The Accidental Activist. I am Chanda Masta, the serious blonde. Welcome, and please welcome my guest today, the all-knowing, the all-powerful man behind the curtain, Oz LaFave.
I
Welcome, Oz.
you know what?
Oh no, I
I
can't
think
hear you.
I think I was muted there for a
Oh, there you
second.
go. There you go. I can hear you
You know,
now.
I was so overwhelmed by that wonderful introduction, the all-powerful man behind the curtain. I don't know how powerful I am, other than my smell, but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you and
Oz,
kick
you're
off. Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
You make
well,
me laugh. So, how are
yeah.
you doing this Sunday?
I am doing fine. It's Sunday brunch with the accidental activist, so I'm happy.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah, I'm still in the nighttime, and I got Seattle showing through on my mic and on my shirt, so I'm feeling very Seattle centric this morning.
Seattle centric. Well, it looks good on you. You
Thank
can
you.
wear Seattle all day long. So you look really great. So
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
someday it'll be Cascadia. Who
yeah,
knows?
Cascadia. There you go.
So today's show, we've got a few things. We're going to kind of go over what we went over on Thursday night. I want to clarify a few points, just people in the chat asking questions, and we're going to run a few clips. We have an amazing song to share that was wrote for the show, and we have a couple of or a clip that I want to kind of talk about from Kyle Kalinske, and then we're going to talk about future shows and how you can help us out, help us get the word out, help us find those amazing activists that are out there supporting, the issues that affect us every day. So, as you can go ahead and throw up, my slide deck. We'll just kind of go back through it. I think slide 2 maybe would be good to start with.
How about slide 3? That's the
Slide
one.
3 is better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good one. I
yeah.
like that one. That's good. You look great.
I think, yeah. So, a couple of things I wanted to clarify on. What have we got going on in the chat? Good morning, chat. Lail's in. Uh, you know, I was a state delegate for Bernie Sanders in 2016. I just want to clarify that. I wasn't a national delegate. I had actually applied to be a national delegate. I wrote like probably a 5-page essay, telling my life story and why I would be a good choice to represent Bernie Sanders and why I thought my voice would be important to be a part of the Democratic Party. And we now know, naively, we didn't realize back then how deeply they would vet us. And that's when the purity tests come in, and the Bernie or bus that I had supported for the few months leading into that convention really cost me being able to be a delegate. But now in retrospect, I thank God I wasn't a delegate. I thank God I didn't have to go through what those poor people went through. I commend every one of them and what they sacrificed to fight for our voice, you know. So that's just one point I wanted to clarify. I was actually a part of a media team that was on the outside of the DNC. So that's why I had so many pictures of arrests and, helicopters and protests and whatnot.
Well, it's always good to make everything perfectly clear because in today's social media, they beat the living shit out of you if you're not 100% genuine. So thank you for
Well, and
clarifying
I'm
that.
very genuine, man.
Yes, you are. You are the
I have a
genuine
very thin
blonde.
filter. I say it how it is. I don't pull no punches, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm something that I'm not, because I'm perfectly content with what I am. And so, you know, the reason I'm making these clarifications is there's a lot of people that aren't happy that I've been handed a platform, and so the videos are getting around, our local e-boards and Democratic Party, and there's a lot of people that aren't happy that I'm speaking truth about what I've witnessed in the last 5 years, especially with the purity tests. And just to give you guys a small example of what I take on a daily basis is I'm constantly attacked and smeared even when I'm not doing anything. I have my page trolled, all of my social media platforms, they screenshot anything that I do. And so I ran for state committee woman in 2016 or 2017, actually, at the reorg. And there was 100 people in the room. We got there, I was nervous. I had my speech ready. I'd never got up in front of a Dem committee and gave a speech. And as I'm talking, I see people passing around papers. And I'm like, okay, so I kind of lean over to see what the paper is. And it's a screenshot of my Facebook, and it's a PBS post of Jill Stein. And it's me saying I support Jill Stein. Well, a lot of the Bernie people went to Jill Stein, including myself. And I'm going to tell you, when we were on the streets of Philadelphia, Bernie never came and saw us once. Bernie never was in the streets doing a rally. Even though we'd invited him to numerous rallies, he never once was out on the streets. Nina wasn't out there. Pretty much none of the surrogates were out there. You've got 100,000 heartbroken Bernie supporters. Many had, raised money, borrowed money, came across the country to be there to support Bernie in this, contested convention, because Bernie said he was going to fight all the way to the convention, right, in 2016. So here we are. I mean, we are literally heartbroken. Bernie has turned his delegates over. We are in the streets like, what are we going to do? Who was there on the ground in the crowd with us? Jill Stein. And Jill Stein is saying the exact same things that Bernie was saying, but even more to an extent that, we wanted to support her. Cornel West is standing with her. Shama is standing there with her. These were the people that were on the ground. So to me, I'm an action type of person. If, Jill's there, Jill's saying, let's go, let's go. They even offered Bernie the top of the green ticket, if you remember, at that point. So I want it clear that, yes, I supported Jill Stein. I still support the Green Party. I'm not a member of the Green Party. The purity test that we now see from the DNC says that, we can throw you out of the Dem Party if we think that you are not loyal. And so that purity test has been used on me a good amount from the local Dems and the state Dems.
And it'll be used again. And, what you're going through is you're talking about this is, now that Bernie has bent the knee to the establishment what you are doing is you are basically outlining the journey for Bernie of you becoming the accidental activist. And when you talk about the party with this purity test from the party at the people, the purity test stops at the issues, because the issues always remain the same. If the person is behind the issues, like you and so many of us in the group this morning, and by the way, we have Barbara, we have Veg, we have Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Veg. Hi,
Veg. And Jilly's here. Yeah, Jilly. Who else do you see? Dennis from Germany. Great show yesterday, Dennis.
Yes, great show, guys. I loved it. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, I digress. I just wanted to, I want to back you up on this, because the establishment Democrats, those tools that are vetting people like you is, she's not a real Democrat, she's a Green Party supporter. The bottom line is, everybody, the issues are what matters the most. And we're going to have leaders carved out like Bernie and Jill and, the Democratic Socialists, everybody, who all agree on the issues. It's the Democratic Party and the Republican, those donor-based issues. That's what they're trying to protect. So I just want to clear that up. Yeah, and go ahead, take off. I'm sorry. Which slide are we on, by the way?
That was an excellent point. They are donor-based issues.
They are.
I call them owners, not donors.
Owners. Are we on slide 5 or 4 right here with the Jennifer?
Yeah, if you want to move the slides up, just let people take a look at
them.
If they want the breakdown of each picture and slide, they can check out Thursday's show.
Yeah, Thursday's show. This is just kind of an extra emphasis on who you are as being the accidental activist, and kind of a Sunday brunch with the accidental activists. And Oz is cooking today.
Coffee.
So yeah, Oz is cooking. Oz is cooking. So you guys just belly up to the bar, and I'll cook you an omelet. So go right ahead there, Chanda.
Sounds like a good breakfast for Sunday.
Yum.
Yum yum. So let's see. I kind of lost my spot.
My fault.
You got me thinking somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, the amount of harassment that I've taken inside the Dems, when I filed for PCO the second time, which was 2 years ago, I filed on a Wednesday, which gave them 2 days heads up to make sure that they found somebody to run against me. I wasn't trying to be sneaky. I didn't file at the last minute. I literally was like, hey, I'm filing, come at me. And I started getting harassing phone calls and harassing emails that gave me a time clock to withdraw. Like, you have 24 hours to withdraw and remain a private citizen. And then once you don't withdraw, You don't know what we're capable of. And those were the exact words. You don't know what we're capable of. And so, I just hold my head up high and I just keep going and I keep going. And okay, you're not going to scare me. You're not going to intimidate me. What can you use against me? I put all of my stuff out there. I put my flaws out there. You know, I'm a recovering opiate addict. I live in a trailer park. What more can I put out there for people to attack me with? And so I sailed through that, kept my head up high, and come to the reorg this last year, I wasn't running for anything, but I thought I'd show up just to see what's going on, And sure enough, I come in the room, there's more papers being passed around, more slandering of me, And finally, now I'm going to the chairs of the local LDs and the state party and saying, come on, really? Is this what you guys got to do? You got to intimidate people to try to keep them out of the race? Well, that's exactly what we saw this last week. And in my little town, in my little county, they have literally intimidated every single progressive PCO that we've had into dropping out. We had 30 in 2016. We had 2 filed this month, 2 last week. And, it's a wall that they come up against, and many people are not as thick-skinned as I am. So you get these everyday people that want to go in, they want their voice to be heard, they want to fight, but they're intimidated, and I don't blame them, not one bit. So then where do they take their energy? And really, I want to focus the show on activism, issues. Let's, you don't have to go idly wasting your time in this Democratic Party. It's not necessary anymore. Let them do the busy work, right? Because they used us. They co-opted us.
Yeah, they absolutely did.
Oh, is your
They absolutely did. Can you hear me now? Okay.
I can hear me now.
Sorry, I've got a couple of girls that are barking in the background, so I'm trying to keep it out of your show. Anyway, what they're doing to you is not unique. They're doing it across the country and in Washington State. The establishment this week was filing week. So what do? Any candidate they don't like, they take an establishment tool or even worse, a centrist conservative, and they basically get them to file, and they're going to try and bleed votes from our other great progressive candidates. Well, this is the kind of screwing around that all establishment parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're equally nasty when it comes to running a race. It's not caring about the issues at all. They just want their tool in there so they can put their hand in the back of that little sock puppet and make them chirp to whatever worm they throw out there, and that's donor cash. So, we all in this group have seen this over and over again. You have our sympathy, Chanda, and your courage for standing up, and we will make this platform scream for you and anybody else that wants to come and have a platform. I will do what I can. The whole Uphill Media family will, because the bottom line is we're ready to eat the rich, and this has got to stop. So please continue. Yes,
I got text messages this week that said, well, you should clarify on a couple of points. Some of the things that you said on your show Thursday night, are going to cause backlash and make people mad. And my response was, there's a reason I didn't run for PCO again for a third time. I don't need to capitulate to the Democratic Party. I do not need their approval. I don't want their approval. I don't care what they're saying about me. I don't care what they do. I'm not outwardly attacking them by speaking the truth of what I've seen. So they can get over it. That's the point I wanted to make in the very beginning of this. And there's just one more thing I wanted to clarify. It. I wasn't actually at Standing Rock. I had planned on going to Standing Rock, but I was running for state committee woman, and the reorg was towards the end of November. So I didn't actually go, but I did support networks and help build networks that, sent food and that, one of the most important things that we can do while we're sitting in front of our screens on our social media is to share. Click the like button, share the information, share it into groups. I know that all of these different platforms are censoring, suppressing, algorithming out. That's why we got to work even harder. So, we know our ways. So, copy, paste, don't just share it straight to Facebook. We all have our ways of trying to get the information out, but it's so important because that was what we were doing at Standing Rock. I was getting live video feed. I run a group called the American, or the American activists. I have so many activist groups. And we put all of the live stream feeds that were coming in. We had digital smoke signals. I don't know if you guys have ever checked them out, but they're amazing independent native media network. They had a drone, so we were getting a lot of footage from them. We were a central hub for this information to come in, so then we could get it back out. And so it's so important for the people that can't get up and go be on the front lines to share everything that everybody else is doing. I think that that's one of the most useful things that we can do.
We need to take advantage of this communications while we have it, because we're going to need a spine, an infrastructure for communications when and if they start pulling plugs or throttling us down. So that's point well taken. We're not out for this to pad our bank accounts because piggy banks in our case. It's just we just need to help each other get the word out and create that basically modern day French underground, because this is what's happening with AI and everything else, which is another topic I hope you do cover, especially women in this time of AI and loss of your privacy and everything else, how it affects the women's point of view on all this stuff, which I'm really excited about.
Actually, I want to do a segment on that. I do know a lot about AI. I really do. So yeah, we'll actually cover that probably in a future show.
Terrific.
So, I want to point out something that most people don't realize or even remember. We weren't calling ourselves progressive in 2016. Do you remember this, Oz?
Yep, I sure do.
So I remember being in our Democratic headquarters, and we were trying to come up with a name to call our committee, and I got pulled aside by a senior member and said, hey, don't use the word progressive. Anytime you use the word progressive, it's failed for 70 years. Look at, coming out of FDR and whatnot. And now I was like, I didn't choose it. The millennials are the ones choosing to call themselves that. And I just love that we steamrolled them. We are who we are. We are what we are, and we are progressive. We want progressive change. And so people need to remember, we weren't even progressives 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's less than
we've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, it's less than a label, but more of a movement. It's right. You can label anybody anything you want. The Democratic Socialists, or what was the one we had yesterday? We had a big meeting with out in Ohio or something, but it was similar to Democratic Socialists. But it's people who give a shit about what's happening to the public, to the working poor. And again, labels don't matter. It's the issues that people stand up for. And one of the things that came out of that, I think it was Friday, they were talking about it on one of the social media programs, is what are we going to do when we get out on the streets as far as being an activist, accidental or otherwise? How do we demonstrate? Well, one of the cuts that I got from Friday's social media was they were really pushing a thing called Pulse activism, Pulse getting in the street. And what that is, it's the model of the yellow vests in Hong Kong. It's not a constant Occupy like Occupy goes. It's a pulse. It's just taking it easy and picking your shots. Do you agree with that, being the accidental activist? I do
agree with that. I have occupied, and there's so many logistic issues that come with occupying. Because once you take a space, you have to hold the space. But then once you hold the space, you have to feed the people in the space. You have to keep the people in the space busy. You have to keep them on point. It can go awry so many different ways. So yes, you're absolutely right. Just these small bursts of, punch throughs. But I also think that, the main thing we can do is hit them in the pocketbook. And time and time again, we have proven this, whether it's a general strike, whether it's shutting down ports, whether it's, divesting. As long as we're messing with their money, we're making our point.
Absolutely. And that's what we need to do. We need to be wise about this. A lot of us can't afford to go to jail, even, if we chained ourselves to the front of the White House gates. Is that the best use of what you can do? Some people, yes. Some people are going to sit on railroad tracks and doing that thing. And we will support you whatever way we can. But the strategy, the tactics, the goal setting, it has to be an organized thing. It can't be a feel-good thing. And I'm not knocking some of these marches, the Million Man March or the Women's March or anything else.
Busy work.
What I'm talking about is actually getting behind those marches and having a purpose rather than making a statement, because the statement is important, but you have to have both. And I got beat up on it at a couple of meetings when I asked, okay, well, we're going to have this great march coming up, i.e. whatever it is. What is the point? What is the goal? Is it going to make us all feel good and have zero impact, or do we have a goal? So planning is important. You're all smart in here. You're all engaged. You all think about these things. So it's dependent on you to actually step up and be a leader activist and help coordinate these things. It's not a hierarchical thing where you hang your hat on Bernie Sanders or Jill Stein. It's what you get behind as far as the issues, and you thoughtfully engage in the discussion to plan these things strategically. I think I hear a drone. You better take over.
You got too fired up there. They're coming for you. And that's not even a joke. I mean, I don't even know how many activists I know who go, found a drone over my house the other day. It's kind of scary. It is what it is. But we know very well that what we're risking by speaking truth to power. I do. What will it result? Who knows? Hillary loves to call us terrorists. that's scary. No, I am an American. I am voicing my First Amendment right. That is not terrorism in any way.
Yeah, the serious blonde terrorist doesn't really do anything for me. I think the serious blonde does, because you're speaking truth to power. Sorry, Hillary, go have another cappuccino.
Right.
So, yeah. Good morning, Sharon. Sharon Abreu just dropped in the room.
Sharon, I'm glad you're here. Sharon wrote us a beautiful song that we're going to feature here in a little bit. Thank you so much. The lyrics speak to just who I am and what I've done and how I feel. She encapsulated it so beautifully.
It's a great song, beautifully sung too. Thank you, Sharon. We're looking forward to spinning that out here shortly.
Yes, we are. Boy, the chat is just going for it this morning.
Yeah, they sure are. Boy, they're chattering. They're chattering at over brunch. Over brunch. I better get going on those omelets. Well, continue there, Chanda. Keep going.
So, you want to cue up our Kyle Kolinski clip?
Yeah, our Kyle Kolinski. Why don't you give a little? Give this an intro before we get it going here a little bit.
Okay, so I believe this is a clip with President Trump talking about how mail-in ballots across the country is a way of rigging the election. But then he contradicts himself and says, look, we just won 2 races with mail-in ballots. So that didn't make any sense. But I'll let it speak for itself, and then we'll give a little commentary on it.
Okay. Do you want to run the full clip? It's 5 minutes. Or?
No, maybe the 4-minute mark, I think, is where
just the 4. I think everybody gets the idea. And Kyle's dialogue is really good usually anyway.
Gotta love Kyle.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Okay, here we go. We're going to kick it off. This is Trump says voting by mail is corrupt and cheating. Well, yeah, I think so. He has a point there, unfortunately.
The hilarious claim and then immediately contradicted himself. This is something I've been seeing a lot more of recently. This is a claim that Fox News has been going full steam ahead with. Let's watch.
Stimulus should move forward. There's been some Republicans who suggest that
I don't know. It depends. It's certainly not the package that I saw today. Basically, if you look at that package, what they want more than anything else is it's a voting package. They want to be able to make sure that Republicans can't win an election by putting in all sorts of mailing ballots. Now, I don't know if you do, because the press doesn't report this too much, but we had 2 very big victories last night. We won very big. Tom Tiffany won very big in the great state of Wisconsin. You saw that. That was last night it came in. That was a big one. You saw that, Doug? And won by a very, very substantial margin. And in California, of all places, we had a fantastic race, and this was all mail-in ballots. This was all mailed ballots. And when they saw, because it was mailed, they saw they were losing 3 days ago, and they end up putting polling booths into basically Democrat areas. But despite that, it's looking like Mike Garcia. I don't know if they've called the race yet, but he was substantially ahead. That's the problem with mail-in ballots. Are they going to dump a whole pile of ballots on your desk just before the election? So the problem with the mail-in ballots, it's subject to tremendous corruption, tremendous corruption, cheating. And so I'm against it. And if you look at the bill that Nancy Pelosi is putting in, has a lot to do with elections, and then we're not gonna lose elections because of that.
Is it a non-starter?
And I do think you should mention the fact that the Republicans won 2 major congressional seats last night. I think it's really worthy of mentioning.
All right, so Trump's claim is that, hey, the reason why Democrats want to move to these all mail-in elections are because they want to steal the election, and that's the way to steal it. So you make it an all-mail election, and somehow he thinks that makes it easier to steal. Now, of course, the reason why now everybody's getting on board with doing all-mail elections is because we have a pandemic that's ripping through the country, and a mail-in election is a hell of a lot safer than people showing up in public. Because the most dangerous situation you could be in is a small area indoors with a lot of people, and then throw in some poor ventilation and it's game over. It's not good. It's the last place you'd want to be. Well, elections kind of fit that description very well. So an all mail-in election solves that problem. That's why we want to move in that direction.
Is that where you want to? Is that where you want to stop it?
Oz is on mute again.
Is that where you want to stop it?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You know, Kyle's got the same thing to say about this as I do pretty much. You know, yes, we know that we're in a pandemic and mail ballots is going to be the safest. But, you know, I'm in Washington State. Oz, you're in Washington State. We've had mail-in ballots for many years now. I think 5 or 6 years. It's been an all state mail-in, which is convenient. And I think that we do get more people to turn out to vote when you can just fill it out and drop it in a mailbox. We had to fight for the postage to be paid for the last few years. We finally got that passed, and we have ballot boxes now that you can drop them off in most towns. And that was a fight to get those too. But here's the thing. I am a trained and election official. So I'm a vote observer. I go in on election day and I watch the ballots come in. I watch them go into the cages. I watch them be opened by the trained, vote counters. And then I watch how they're counted. And so what they do is they open them, they check the signature, and they do check the signature on every single ballot to make sure that it hasn't been forged or done by somebody else. And they compare it to the signature on the screen that you signed your voter registration card for. And then from there, it gets put into a pile. And then that pile is fed into a scanner machine that counts them. And they, normally we have a screen up, or the auditor will have a screen up where they flash as they're being counted. And then you'll get a tally at the end of each pile, and then they're, compiled. But the problem with this system is, once that count is done, it goes onto a flash drive. And then that flash drive is taken upstairs or taken, the auditor takes it. And from there, the numbers are just given to the state. We have no chain of command, no custody for these ballots once they are opened and starting to be counted. We sure protect them before they get to the count. You have to have 2 people go to a ballot box to actually pick them up. When they're transported to your local courthouse, they're under lock and key. There's a chain of command up until the moment where they start counting them. And then as soon as they start counting them, there's no chain of command. We have no idea. We're just told the numbers, and we're, you're expected to believe that those are the real numbers. And in 2016, knowing how much support Jill Stein had in my county, I was shocked to see the number of votes versus what I saw go across the screen, and that was my first, okay, maybe I'm thinking, maybe I'm projecting that there's more voting for her than there was. But then we've seen this time and time and time again. So I am concerned about a complete mail-in for the whole entire country. I think we can do it, but we need a better chain of command for these counts.
I absolutely agree. Let me go back to 2016 again. Okay, so they have the primary. Bernie bends the knee early, or when he had to for Hillary. Okay, so then our primary election was held in August, right? Okay, so guess what? Hillary won by a small margin. And all the establishment tools were saying, see, the people really didn't want Bernie. It was the damn caucuses that pushed Bernie over the edge. Well, guess what, guys? I'll buy this vote for a moment just because a lot of people who did vote thought, well, Bernie's out of it, so we got to vote blue for Hillary so we don't get Donnie the dandy Trump in there. Okay, I kind of buy it for a second, but then flash forward to now, okay, to this election. You mean to tell me that before Bernie bends the knee, takes a vote in Washington State, was it Biden that won in Washington State, or who was it? I don't remember, but Bernie didn't win Washington State. Yeah, Biden edged out after meticulous counting and hours, days passed before we had a count on that. Is that correct, Chanda?
That is correct. It took us over 2 weeks to call our election this time around. And here's the thing. So we don't have to declare a party in Washington State to register. It's a state of mind. You're either a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're an independent. Well, they saw what happened in 2016, where so many independents flooded their Democratic Party and voted Democrat, but did not toe the line and did not pass the purity test and moved on to Jill Stein in the general, didn't stay with the Dems. So this time around, they made us declare our party on the outside of our damn ballot. So your mail lady now knows if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You know, your neighbor, if they saw your mail, anybody who saw your mail would see this, which I don't even have a problem with declaring the candidate that I'm voting for as party, but why on the outside of your ballot? I mean, that is a constitutional violation of my privacy. And many people thought that 70,000 plus did refuse to mark that box, refuse to declare a party. You know, I was there the day that we were counting, they were counting on election day. And the joke was every time they would open one up, somebody would write a note like, this is a violation of my rights, and they would laugh as they were counting it. But really that was designed to stop Bernie. That was all that was about in Washington State, was let's slow Bernie down, make them have to declare their party on the outside. So I really don't think we'll have this in the future. I do believe that whoever becomes Secretary of State, and let's hope it's our guy, but I do believe that they will remove that just because it made so many people mad. But it was intentional. It was done just to stop Bernie.
Yeah, that was voter suppression in a big way, and it was the Bernie voter suppression. The hate for Bernie in this state is high, as it is many of the so-called progressive states. The having those check marks on the outside of the ballot was pure and simple voter suppression, period. Because if you're going to vote, Democrat, you're going to vote Democrat. If you're going to vote Republican, well, having that check mark out there, the independents say, I don't want to sign fealty to either one of these damn parties. Are you kidding me? Yep. There's no way. So it was basically extortion. For you to vote, you have to check. And people are going to say, well, that's the rules in Washington State. You have to declare a party. Well, you know what? It's still extortion. We should have open primaries regardless. And I know both parties say, oh, no, you can't do that because the other party that's in power is going to come over and vote for the opposition that's going to be weakest to their incumbent power. Well, I don't think so. These days, with everything on the line the way it is, I don't think that's going to be as big of a factor. It's more of an excuse to suppress the vote and rule out progressive voters, independent voters for the likes of Bernie on those issues, particularly Medicare for all. I bet you every single one of those voters that didn't put their check mark in the box were behind Medicare for all. I would say if you took a poll, that 90%, and I'm shooting from the hip, 90% of those votes that got tossed, they were for Medicare for all. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. We formed a committee to cure our ballots because the state auditor was allowing people, the Secretary of State was allowing people to fix their ballot. And, most people did it intentionally, like as a form of protest of, no, I'm not going to mark that box. I'll vote for Bernie, but I'm not going to mark the Democrat. What 46% of the country is identifying as independents right now?
Yep.
So they forced our hand. They knew they forced our hands. and we have a Republican secretary. So that was kind of crazy that she even allowed it, and she wouldn't vote either. Do you know that she abstained? Ken Wyman
Is that
abstained from
Kimmy?
voting.
She caught a lot of guff for that, didn't she?
As well she should have.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that everybody's talking about right now. Should we do this mail-in ballot? We need to. I was so damn proud of Washington State when I was traveling in 2016, because we were one of the only states that had caucuses and we had open primaries. And what's so important, because we had both in 2016, if you remember, the caucus actually counted for Bernie, and the primary, I don't even know why we held the primary, right? Hillary won the primary, but Bernie won the caucus by like 72%, where Hillary only won the primary by 52%. But the thing about the caucus is, and I fought to save the caucus gives us a chance to meet our neighbors, to talk about the issues, and to network. And that was one of the strongest things that we came out of 2016 with as the Bernie delegates and supporters is we went to our local caucuses and we met our neighbors who were Bernie supporters, and we met our people in our communities that were supporting the same values and ideas that we were supporting, and that made us stronger. And that is exactly why they took the caucus away from us, is because it made us too strong.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's uniting. It's true unity when you have those caucuses and people really, they know they have skin in the game. They just can't sit back and watch MSNBS or CN Not News garbage propaganda. They know what's at stake, and typically, unfortunately, it's those under 65 who are still engaged, who still invested into what's happening. Some of the boomers, like myself, I'm one of the bald boomers that kind of relate to the generations on back. The mail-in ballot process, I believe, is a good thing. Chain of custody of those votes, that's another thing. Like you pointed out, it doesn't take anything for somebody to palm a drive. And if they are not watched, closely enough, do you think that the establishment for either party is going to let the voters decide what policy is with all that power and money at stake? Look at the military-industrial complex, pharma, fossil fuels. They're not gonna let the people decide what's good for them. It's going to be the oligarch, and inevitably, it's what's good for the oligarch, the overlords of the planet, the profiteers, the ones that are poisoning us all to death, the ones that weren't ready for this pandemic, that yet they've been told for decades it's coming. The morons on the right and the morons on the left. Yes, you morons. You're really not left, though. You're more of a little bit right of center now with your buddies on the other side of the line, because you drink from the same trough of money they shove at you. So there again, I better get off my soapbox before your time
Almighty
runs out.
dollar. It's always about the dollar. Living in Washington State, we have so many of these companies like Boeing and Amazon, and, that really dictate what's going to happen in our state and how it goes. So we just got to fight. I want to put it out there that all of us, let's support the mail-in, but let's support a chain of custody and getting rid of the machines that we know are corrupt. We know the Diebold machines can be hacked within like 5 seconds by a 10-year-old kid. How many times does it have to be proven? These are issues that we have to address, but a lot of people don't realize that it's even a problem. They think that their ballot just goes off, it's secure, it's counted, and it's not manipulated. But we've seen time and time again how it can be manipulated. And so if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about the whole entire issue. That's my take on it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm sorry. I've got some dogs that just love barking today, and
we are puppy friendly here.
Yeah, we are puppy friendly here too. But I had to go out and scold them for a minute, so that's why I missed that. Where are we at now on the grand scheme of things in our brunch? Are we on to the?
We are on to Sharon's clip, I believe.
Okay, Sharon Abreu. Let me get that queued up. You want to give a little intro to this clip? You already did, sort of. So
Sharon is Sharon Abreu. She's an amazing activist and singer and performer. She lives up on Orcas Island, which is, I can see Orcas Island. It does look like an orca. I'm not even kidding. It's a beautiful island up in the San Juans, and she just created a song that embodies exactly how I feel, how it became that I am the accidental activist. And thank you so much, Sharon. It's so beautiful.
It is. I just want to. Sandy's in the house. Environmental Coffee House. Hi, Sandy. Humans here. Oh, man. This is great. Jilly, Lael. Okay. Sharon Abreu. Beautiful song just for the accidental activist.
Some say there are no accidents. I have to disagree. I was minding my own business when accidentally I became an activist. Never thought I'd be. But sometimes things just happen, and that's what happened to me. I'm an accidental activist. Whoa. What seemed to happen overnight started long ago. Life took a sharp left turn. I learned things I can't unlearn. I'm on a strange new road, and there's no return, no return. Accidental activist. Whoa. Accidental activist.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Yeah, accidental activist. I'd like to see another chorus put in there. Maybe we can all sing that song together for all the activists, accidental or otherwise, because we need you guys. Come on, let's get active.
Yeah, I honestly, I cannot wait for the lockdown to be lifted a little bit. I'm doing really well at staying home, especially because my husband had a heart attack recently. So I've been like neurotic about not letting anybody hear, not going out. When I go out, I mask up, I glove up, I take a bath in Purell every time, because it's not about me, it's about him. And if I bring something back to him, it could kill him. And so I will stay locked down as long as I need to, and we need to keep each other safe. But boy, my wheels are spinning on what we can do when we are lifted, because there's so many things that are going to need our attention. How many people are losing their jobs? How many people are losing their insurance? How many people are food insecure right now? How many will lose their homes? There's just going to be so many issues for us to tackle as activists, in the coming years, the coming moments, So I really think that as we're sitting home, let's talk about that and let's think about that. So at this time, I just want to take questions. So many people are just seeing me for the first time the last few weeks on Uphill. Go ahead and throw me some questions in the chat. Let's talk.
Yeah, we've got some comments here. Let me see. Sharon just said, and if you spot a question, go ahead and read it, Chanda. But Sharon Abreu says, we need to replace all of those Boeing MIC jobs as part of a just transition. And, that said, it is what we want, a just transition. We're not trying to take any good paying job away from anybody as a group of activists. We are trying to make sure that those people who need those good jobs have a future for their families, their children, future generations. Whether you know it or not, guys, all you oil and gas people with these LNG plants, those great paying jobs, well, that's really a myopic view of a short-term solution to your economic woes. If your kids are going to die because the water in the air is poisoned to death 10 years down the road and take the planet out with them, I don't think that's a very secure future as far as going forward. What are your thoughts on that, Chanda?
I agree. We want those good paying jobs to be there. We don't want all low wage, we need those good paying jobs, but more and more they're disappearing, especially with the implementation of AI that's coming in, like Boeing workers. How much of the factory Boeing jobs will be replaced with, automatic machinery? we'll be fighting for those things too, you know. So I do have a question in here. It's from Lael. Advice for dim enterers like me fighting for Bernie's issues, first time PCOs and alternate delegates applying for national. Oh, honey, I got a ton of words for you. Wear your opinions close to your vest. Don't put them out there on Facebook would be my biggest piece of advice. Anything that they can weaponize against you, don't give it to them. Don't let them have it. Wear thick skin. Know that they're going to hate you. They are going to do everything they can to tear you down, to tear your message down and make you not want to come back. And I know like right now, a part of me kind of feels like, okay, I didn't file for PCO. So they won, right? They pushed me out is the way some people are seeing it. But I made the decision not to go back into the Democratic Party this time around. I tagged out. I think this is a tag team type of situation where we have to have inside and outside strategies, which we do. We have amazing on all rounds. Just know you're going to take a lot of heat inside there, but we need you to do it. So I absolutely support all the dim enterers. It's so vital. It's so important what you guys are doing. Hold them accountable. Keep that mirror in front of their faces. Show them the hypocrisy of the things that they say and the things that they do. And thank you for going in. Thank you for tagging in. Thank you for allowing me to tag out and letting me have this platform so I can, fight from a different angle. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. And those of you who have questions or ideas that you don't feel comfortable shooting out there in that microcosm because of, assault, threats, all that stuff, bring it to us. I have no problem giving a platform for your question. If not you saying it publicly, I sure as hell will, because they already hate my guts. The temperature drops 20 degrees when I walk into some of these meetings, but that's okay, because you know what? I'm 60. Okay, I've seen a lot in my lifetime, and you know what? I give a shit about the planet, the deer behind me here, the birds and the bees and future generations and our public. So come at me all you want, because you can't take something away from me that hasn't already been taken away from as we speak daily. We need to buck up and start standing our ground in a sensible, thoughtful way and connecting with other activists and independent thinkers around the country. So this is absolutely imperative. Now, Human here says guerrilla signage for democracy and voting rights. I agree, Human. We need to do that along with pulse activism, pulse getting out in the streets, like the Yellow Vests, like the Hong Kong protests, not a couple of hundred people, but thousands, because the more numbers, the less risk to, having your life disjointed, and they'll take you seriously. So that's what we need to do. How do you feel about them apples, Chanda?
Actually having a goal, instead of just like, oh, well, we're going to have a protest march, downtown. Have a goal. You're going to march somewhere. You're going to occupy a space when you get there. You're going to have a message when you get there. Don't just bring all these people out for busy work. That's what I call it. I call it busy work. You feel like you've done something, but you have absolutely accomplished nothing. I think we have to be more focused. We need clarity on what we are doing, what our purpose is when we are performing an action like that. I do see us getting so much stronger. I really do. In the last 4 years, we're coming together. I mean, our media is getting tighter. The information we're moving around is flowing a lot easier. I do see it improving. I really do.
I do too. And again, this is why I'm loving your new show. You are the accidental activist, and this is a place, I hope on Sundays in particular, because I'm seeing a lot of dialogue here. People want to talk. This is a big part of the show. I think you should, really consider having this engagement media aspect where you're asking questions and people can think about them during the week on these different topics. Yeah. Like Lael White here, she has, do you have any advice for Dem Enters like me fighting for Bernie issues? First-time PCO and alternate delegate applied to the national? What kind of advice would you give Lael on that?
Network. Get to know the people that are in your area. Get to know the people that are supporting the issues that you support, and that way you have them there to support you. You know, when you're inside the Democratic Party, the biggest thing is the vote, because everything's done by parliamentary, right? So that is the key to our voice, is parliamentary procedure inside the Democratic Party. So knowing parliamentary is so key. Being able to make a motion and having somebody that can second that motion is so important, because you can throw a beautiful motion out on the table, but if you turn around and the 50, little hillbots behind you won't second it, it dies. So, you have to form these little groups to go in and to fight them is where we had the most success. Is, when we had 10 of us and we'd say, okay, you take this motion and you take that motion, and know what's coming up, read the agendas, know what they're coming at you with. So that way you can one of the most powerful things that we have in parliamentary is amendments, being able to amend a resolution and rewrite it. They came at us in 2017 with a resolution that said they wanted an investigation into Donald Trump and the Russian collusion. And here we are just shaking our heads saying, the Russian collusion? Don't you mean the DNC collusion, So we hurried up and we revised that amendment to say, no, we want a full investigation. If you guys are going to call for one into Russia, we want a look into the DNC and everything else. So it's just being quick on your feet and being able to, come back at them is so important inside the Democratic Party. It really, it's a tough thing to be in there fighting,
It is, and it's a necessary thing. And again, I think we've talked about this before, Chanda, is we know how hard it is to hold your nose and vote for somebody, but we should step it up a notch, not mostly on the vote, but we can't give up ground within the Democratic Party because there are rules of procedure. This is why Larry Taylor is doing what he does with PDPR, and he's a real parliamentarian. To give up that ground and to let those establishment tools do whatever they want, that's another front we're fighting, because look what's happened. They have their establishment tools in our Congress, our Senate, as leading the fight for the people. Are you effing kidding me? They're leading the fight for their donors, their Monsantos, their Raytheons, the rest of them. So again, we have to take it on all fronts. Whether it's a social war or a peaceful strike or reaction. These massive strikes, these shutdowns are necessary. We need to do that to get ahead. Now we've got Pat the Batman fan has a critique of you. It's not a critique. I take it as a compliment. Pat the Batman fan. Good morning, Pat. Carlin knew. Chanda sounds almost exactly like Jimmy Dore's wife, Steph. You know what? Now that I think about it, Pat, she does. She sounds a lot like Steph Zamorano. Do I
sound like Steph? I love Steph.
I love Steph, too. She's fantastic. I so
respect Steph. She is such a smart woman. The fact that she was a teacher for so many years, I love that. All she wanted to do was help the people. And yeah, I have great respect for Steph and for Jimmy. I don't always agree with everything that Jimmy says. There's a lot of times he goes off on a tyrant that I am not supportive of, but I still support him. And I understand where he's coming from because I've been there for 5 years. So his attacking of Bernie, people are like, I'm done with him. He's attacking Bernie. No, he's just saying what nobody else has actually had the balls to say. And that is, hey, Bernie's let us down time and time again. And I don't, blame Bernie. Bernie is Bernie. He woke so many of us up. He has done a great service for us. It's time to move on. But yeah, I don't attack Jimmy for his opinion. He's
Jimmy's pretty passionate about it. And it's pretty bad. Some of the stuff he really spanks, call him some pretty terrible names, but at the same time, that's his shtick. Jimmy's a shock kind of guy. He's like a modern day Lenny Bruce to me. And he is.
And he's a comedian.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's even said he liked Bernie, and he's so disappointed in how Bernie is walking through D.C. And I always say, well, okay, I'm disappointed, and I really think he's wrong. but I'm not walking in his shoes in the halls of Congress. We are outside. This is why I say again, don't give up that battle with inside the party. If you have to eat a little bit of crap to put on with it, because that's the front that we need to, we have to do that. But you don't have to accept the edicts coming down from the positions of power within the party. I mean, Chanda, you went through that in your district back when, you had consensus. What's that slide that has the meeting difference between the progressives in your area and the actual Dems?
Which one is that? The People's Summit, no doubt coming home.
Yeah, that's really kind of telling here.
It's like 10 or 11, I want to say.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Is that it right there? Yeah, that's it right there. Take a look at this slide. Okay, now here's Shanda's meeting on the bottom left-hand corner there. Now tell us about that meeting and tell us what the meeting was up on top there.
So the bottom meeting was on Fridays. We started out with Clallam County for Bernie, and actually the establishment had formed that committee way before I even came in. And people just started showing up, working moms, and then we'd have kids running around, these meetings turned so big that we actually had to start moving them because the fire marshal was saying that we were violating our capacity. And then you can see the top picture, that is a legislative district meeting in the same county. That should be a huge meeting, should be, it's a reorg meeting. And as you can see, by then people are just giving up because they don't want to talk about the issues that they want to talk about. People want to talk about things that affect them, their lives immediately right now, what's causing them problems. And,
Yeah. My experience with a reorg meeting, I was running for chair of a,
good for you,
of a LD. And I had a good platform, and this was back before Bernie. And they were all about Obama back then, Obama this, Obama that. And I'm thinking, let's see what he has to offer. Well, I decided that after Obama bent the knee and put Wall Street into his cabinet, the next reorg, I was going to run for chair. Well, the tools in the party basically went around and said, oh, no, don't vote for that guy. Vote for her or vote for him. And they basically, took the vote, and I lost, of course, because of either how I looked or my positions I stand, because it wasn't based on the issues. It was the club mentality. And that's fine. But this is what happens, is this picture up in the left-hand corner. When you do that to people right in front of their face, you break it off in their eye, and, you say, it doesn't matter what you think. You've got to go along with the club. You've got to be part of this cult, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yet they call us a cult.
They call us a cult, and I'll challenge any of you out there that might see this. I know you mentioned earlier on, Chanda, you've got a lot of fans about this platform you've got. I invite them to tangle with me as well. I stand with you. I believe
Thank
women.
you.
I believe human beings who give a shit about the planet, about where we're going, about our children's future. So the accidental activist, and so many of you out there who are activists and you don't know it yet, you're coming along. So we're running long into the hour. You want to have some closing here?
Yeah. So I want to say that this will be the last, just kind of like focus on me and what I have done.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about
getting to know me. I have a great show in the pike for next Sunday brunch. I have one of the Venezuelan embassy protectors who is filming a documentary. He wrote a book. He runs a Vanguard Youth Radio program in Florida, and he was just on Venezuelan radio yesterday, the day before. He's amazing. We're going to hear from him. We're going to hear his stories of what actually went down at the Venezuelan embassy and the 2 failed coup attempts in Venezuela. As we move out of my self-centric thing right here, some should know I am very interested in foreign policy and history. I feel like history is doomed to repeat itself if we don't look at it, what's happening around the world. And if you really want to know the truth of what's happening in the United States, you need to look to outside of the United States media. So I follow a lot of media around the world, Hindu news, Chinese, it doesn't matter. If it's not American, I'll watch it just to see what they're saying, And so we're going to go down that. And then Thursday, we'll have a guest too. So I'm really excited to bring you guys some of these activists that I've encountered moving through the movement the last 5 years.
Well, I'm excited about that, and thank you so much for allowing me to help you produce and engineer your show. We're here for everybody that's interested in doing this. We want to cross support everybody out there. We have shows coming up. We have them in the pipe. Pap, the Batman fan, actually, he's working on Carlin New, which is a great concept for a show. We have shows every day, the Daily Dive, and Chanda's been on and will be on quite a bit. We've got a pretty good lineup on the Daily Dive. Accidental Activist on Thursdays. We have one tonight. We have an OR meeting tonight that might be interesting to the group here. And we want suggestions. We want support. We want all this stuff. But it's not a lot we ask. We ask that you unite with us. Let's embrace each other's activism and get on that platform of saving the planet and moving forward with the policies that's going to best serve the people and the inhabitants of the entire planet. Don't forget the natural progressive Christine Lund is fantastic. She's got an interview coming up a week from Monday with Derek Jensen. Once again, great interviews. Chanda, we're going to try your song again that you have graciously adopted after I offered it to you. You want to give a little insight on this as we go out for the day? And thank you, everybody. Schultzy, Jilly, everybody, Veg, Human, Jilly, everybody for joining us today.
Thank you, chat, for being so kind to me and everybody at Uphill and Roar Media. You guys have just opened your arms. You've welcomed me. You've set me free to just be who I am, to say what I need to say. And this song really encapsulates that, you know, I'm stepping away from the Dems and everything I've done the last 5 years to really focus on activism, these incredible activists. And if you know these activists, if you know somebody I should talk to, or Oz, please email the show, email me at theseriousactivist@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. And Oz, thank you for giving me the song. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you for letting me do a part due. Let's try it again. It got a little distorted on Thursday night's premiere. I think I've got it this time. So here we go. This is by Michelle Contreras. She's in the Netherlands. The 2001 Eurovision Spring Contest. Beautiful song. I just love it. So here we go.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Be safe out there.
Closing the door, leaving behind all that has been. No turnaround, life begins out on my own. Follow the sun from day to day, free as a bird. Now is the time to spread my wings out on my own. Come to the conclusion